Okay, so in today's video, I am going to share with you what I've learned during more than 100,000 hours of generating leads, doing different courses on lead generation, being part of challenges on generating more leads, and modeling mentors who have generated hundreds of millions of dollars using these exact strategies and tactics to generate leads. And I'm going to share it with you right here and now. But before I get started, I want to take us back a little bit to the start of my journey before I started actively trying to master lead generation. And to be honest with you, at that point in time, I hadn't actually given it much thought. I was kind of doing it on an autopilot basis from what kind of made logical sense to me from my context at the time and my frame of reference. Sure, I was having conversations with people in my network. I was going to the odd networking event when opportunities arose. And I must be honest here that standing awkwardly in the corner, sometimes playing with my phone if no one was speaking to me, a pocket full of business cards, waiting for someone to maybe hopefully approach, was kind of stressing me out a little bit, and also thinking about what that elevator pitch is going to be when they finally do decide to come over. And it just never really felt like a good idea. Also, that kind of got me thinking about what actually happens to all of those business cards that I give out. And the answer is it's the same thing that happens to the ones that you get. They end up in a drawer somewhere, never to be seen again. So at the time, I dabbled a little bit with paid ads as well. Never seemed to really be able to scale what I was doing in a profitable way. They would work for a while, then they'd stop working, and then I'd kind of give up at some point. And really, the primary way in which I was able to create new business was through referrals. That kind of seemed to convert the best out of everything I was dabbling with on a very inconsistent basis. And so the problem with the strategy, the problem of relying on referrals for new business is that I couldn't control it. I couldn't control the when, the how often, or how big the sale would be. And then once I started investing in mastery of lead generation, investing in these courses, in these challenges, in these communities, in learning the skills of lead generation, one of my mentors, Dan, said something to me, and it really struck a chord. And what he said to me was that a business built on referrals is a business built on hope. That resonated with me to my core. He was right. A good example of this is a restaurant. Restaurants are one of the riskiest types of business to be in. They have one of the highest failure rates. Banks generally don't fund them because they are businesses that hope that feet will walk in the door. They are businesses built on referrals, businesses built on hope. So if we don't want to be businesses that are built on hope and we want to create predictable revenue, then we need to master lead generation so that we can fill our pipeline, so that we can confidently hold to our prices and cherry pick only the best clients and projects to work with and work on, and fire our worst clients because there's another 10 waiting to walk in the door. Most importantly, we must make lead generation part of our standard operating procedure and part of our daily habits. Because one thing I've found to be true of myself and those other business owners that I've dealt with and worked with and had conversations with is that when times are good, we get complacent and we stop doing the things that make times good. Then times get bad, almost in the blink of an eye. Then what we want to do is we want to scramble, we want to play catch up. But times are bad now, budgets are low, we're under time pressure to make payroll, and we wind up doing the exact opposite of what needs to be done. We start discounting our prices. We take on bad clients. We come across as salesy and desperate, like little green monsters. We let cheap and painful clients strip every ounce, every dollar of profit out of every deal and transaction that we create. So my purpose here today is to help us prevent that from happening. If you're in good times, and if you're in bad times, showing you how you can dig your way out of the hole and hopefully never ever go back. Now, don't get me wrong, referrals are a powerful mechanism to generate more profit if it's done right. How is it done right? By first building a pipeline of qualified buyers, then converting that pipeline into a customer base of raving fans that are our ideal clients, then creating referral mechanisms that enable our ideal clients to refer to us and look like rock stars while they're doing it. Because people tend to hang out with people just like them. So our ideal clients hang out with who? More of our ideal clients. So let's get into it. Here are 5 other ways to find your ideal clients besides referrals. Because remember, as we said, referrals is a growth strategy based on hope. So the 5 ways are warm outreach. And as I'll get into now, this is generally where most people should start. Then you get cold outreach, which is another outbound strategy. And this really is about expanding the reach of your network and converting more people into your warm audience. Then you get paid ads, which is really one of the first of the 3 inbound ways. And this is about buying reach and speed. Then content adds value in advance to build know, like, and trust in the marketplace so that people feel more safe about the decision to invest both time and money with you. And finally, influencer JV is a leverage point where you are leveraging other people's audiences, other people's earned value in advance in the marketplace to scale your trust in the marketplace. So let's get into a couple of these. So now in lead generation, there are really 2 levers for growth: outbound and inbound. Now, outbound is slower because it's one-to-one, but it has some major benefits. And the major benefit here is deep insight. Deep insight who your ideal client is, what their real pain and challenges are, what the demand is for your offer, if any, and what about your offer makes them say, hell yes, or even hell no. And an important point to make is that I generally don't waste money or time on inbound until I have qualified and validated my solution or offer through outbound. And I've had conversations with at least 10 people who are my ideal client for that service or offer. So now warm outreach. Warm outreach is to people that you are already connected with, that already know you. There are people in your phone contacts, on your social media platforms, in your emails, right? They are the most likely to convert because they already know you, like you, trust you in some way. And if you're just getting started, like I mentioned before, this is where you start. If you've got no money, also start here. If you've got time, start here. If you need testimonials, results, or validation, as I mentioned, start here. Then cold outreach is outreach to people that don't know you, but that you want to connect with because they meet the criteria of your ideal buyer. You find these people through the same channels you developed your warm networks through. The only difference is you're doing it, you're connecting now with them with a very clear intent and purpose. And the most effective framework that I've learned for this was taught to me by a best-selling author and a 7-figure coach, Rich Litfin, when I was part of his community. And what he used to say is that You use the framework of connect, invite, create, and propose. It's also the basis of his book, The Prosperous Coach. So connecting with people in a meaningful way, inviting them to invest their time first with you out of genuine curiosity for what they're working on and what their current challenges are. Then through that conversation, creating an experience during your time with them that adds real value and insight for them. And then if at the end of that experience, with their permission, you can then propose to them how you could potentially solve the problem and why you are the person to do that and what it would look like to work with them. So now outreach, like all other forms of business, is basic math, right? It's a numbers game. In order to succeed, you need to create a cadence of consistency and do outreach day in and day out and let that compound over time. Connecting every day, making it a daily habit, booking out time in your calendar. Sometimes 2 to 4 hours is what I would recommend initially in order to get the momentum going for the lead generation to really start filling up in your pipeline, right? This is really what it takes to build the pipeline. And even though it's not a very complex thing to do, it's actually quite easy to do, but at the same time, it's also easy not to do, right? But in order to show you the benefit of doing it, of creating that compounding, of filling the pipeline, let's have a look at the math. So if you connect with 100 people, potentially 30 of those people will be interested in having a conversation. Of those 30 people, 10 of them will then further be interested in what you actually offer. And from those 10, you can create 2 to 3 potential buyers. So now that we've worked out what the daily habit should be, what the cadence should be, what the math is, and what the value is behind outbound, let's swap over to inbound and look at the other 3 ways available to us in the other lever of growth. So in terms of paid ads, the difference here being scale. So in terms of outreach, it's very much one-to-one. Now, when we go to paid ads, which is the first in inbound, it is very much one-to-many. So this paid ads is by far the fastest way to build your pipeline. It creates the most reach in the shortest amount of time, but it does require you to have budget to fuel the growth. So over the last decade, I've run paid ads on most of the major platforms, and this has really been my experience. In terms of Google search, it's effective, but it's expensive. And the reason being is that you are only targeting hyperactive buyers. And these hyperactive buyers make up about only the top 7% of your audience. Then YouTube ads, they're great for building brand awareness and reach in the marketplace, but it's very much a slow burn. Then LinkedIn, for instance, is actually, in my opinion, from my experience, it's quite expensive. It wasn't really that effective for me. And if I weigh it up against the cost of, for instance, LinkedIn Premium, the Sales Navigator, I would definitely recommend the Sales Navigator as a better option. Then in terms of Instagram, in my experience, been the cheapest way to get reach fast. And then finally, Facebook has more often than not been my go-to. Almost everyone in the world has a Facebook account. It's an aging or an older audience, which actually fits my demographic better. And I can target hyperactive buyers who are ready to invest right now. And then I can also active those that are, I can also target those that are not yet ready to buy through retargeting strategies for those people who are still on the fence. And then that takes me from, for instance, on Google, only targeting the top 7% who are hyperactive buyers, now targeting the top 40%. who are going to go into my pipeline, and I'm going to be able to nurture them to the point where they are ready to buy. And then the third benefit is that it also enables me to build my list, because once I have a leads email, I can market to them, I can make offers to them as much as I want with zero additional cost. I have now bought and paid for that lead and it is mine, right? So now I know some of you may be thinking, well, my clients aren't really on Facebook or on Instagram or on YouTube. And I'm here to tell you, yes, they are. You watch videos on YouTube. You keep in touch with family and friends on Facebook. You like and share on Instagram, and so do I. Aren't your clients just like you? Professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs, executives. We all use these platforms. The majority of all search traffic runs through YouTube. It has nearly 5 billion active users. That's around 60% of the world's population. Facebook, on the other hand, has around 3 billion users. That's just over a third of the world's population. So are you telling me between these two platforms alone, out of the ones that I've mentioned, that you cannot reach your target market? Let's move on to content. So content, just like ads, is also a one-to-many strategy. Content generally requires both time and money to make it work optimally. Money, because you're going to want to put cash behind the content that works to maximize your reach, and time, because content doesn't immediately translate into sales, and it's constantly you iterating to figure out what works for your audience in terms of delivering value in advance. So I've created a simple content creation framework to simplify how you decide what to do in the content space. And it's really two decisions that you need to make. The first decision is, are you a text-based or a visual person? So if you're a text-based person, then you're going to look, for instance, at Substack and Twitter. Substack for long-form content, Twitter, or X as it's called now, for short-form content. If you're a more visual person, think YouTube for long-form and Instagram or TikTok for short-form. Right? This is something that Andrew Kirby has kind of pioneered in his content strategy, and he recommends, and he's built a channel of 650,000 subscribers and has managed to monetize his audience quite effectively. And this is the content strategy that he's used to scale his following and his subscribers in the YouTube space. So this is not just me and my opinion. This is from people who are doing it, who are scaling it, who are growing it, who are getting the results that you are looking for. And then once you've decided which of the two platforms you're going to use, you need to decide whether or not you're going to invest lots of time in making, say, one long form video of about 15 minutes per week, and then see what works. And from what works, chopping that up into smaller bits of content that you can share on your short form platform. Or if you're going to make lots of little bits of short form content and kind of see what resonates in the market, and then use what works best to invest time and money in making longer form content of. But what I must stress here is that whichever way you choose to do it, you must make content part of your habits, part of your skill set, and part of your lead generation mix. I know and I really know that may be uncomfortable for some of you to hear at first. But the reality is that everything we want is on the other side of uncomfortable. And fame may not be the only model. It may not be the model that you like the best, but the fact remains that it is the fastest model to get the success that you are looking for. Just look at Kylie Jenner with her beauty brand, The Rock with his alcohol brand, Ellen DeGeneres with her water, Gwyneth Paltrow with her lifestyle brand. The list goes on. The point is the fastest way today to get to $1 billion is creating content, building an audience, and then monetizing that audience. Why? Because you are delivering value at scale. You are leveraging show, flow, demo to show people you can do what you say, to get them to experience the value you bring to the table, because you are able to show them the results you delivered for others. Walk through the workflow of what it looks like to work with you. Demo your mastery. Before people can buy from you, they need to first trust you. And before they can trust you, they need to like you. And they can't like you unless they know you. This is the power of content. Now, the final one I'm going to go through in this session is influencers. Now, influencer marketing is about hacking content. It's about buying and leveraging the know, like, and trust of someone else so that you can scale trust in a fraction of the time for yourself. It is, in effect, referrals at scale. Think about how your referrals work right now. Let's use an example. You are friends with, let's say, Joe, or you've worked with Joe. And Joe's at a barbecue and he speaks to Nick, who has a problem. Now, Joe knows you are the one that can solve this problem. Joe refers you and you make a sale from Nick. That's one referral, one sale. So now let's step it up a notch. Now, suppose Joe was an influencer with, let's say, for ease of math, 1 million followers. A percentage of Joe's audience has the same problem as Nick did, and it needs your solution. Let's say 10% of that million followers have that problem that Nick had, and you can solve. So that's what's that? So it's 10% of a million. So that's 100,000 leads for you. Now, say of those leads, only 10% are actually qualified buyers that have both the time, resources, and budget to afford your services and invest with you. That's 1,000 sales, plus the trust earned by Joe recommending you as the person to solve the problem. Now, at what you charge right now, what kind of impact would 1,000 extra sales make on your bottom line this month? Now, maybe you're sitting there and you're saying, well, I'm in the B2B space and this doesn't really work for B2B. And again, I will remind you that you need just look at your own social media and that of your friends and family, the ones that work in corporate, that own big businesses, that are accountants, doctors, lawyers, architects, government workers, and tell me that they don't follow or subscribe to some influencer online. The only thing holding you back from getting the results you are looking for is you. So let's move on to the action step. What I want you to take away from this is take action, because learning is not sitting here, going through the training, listening to me and saying, oh, okay, I get it. That knowledge alone is not power. It's not success. It's not results. The power, the results, the success come from you organizing that knowledge, taking action, creating a learned experience with it, and using it to manifest and create the results that you want. So take action as fast as possible. Do one small thing right now as you finish this training, because it will increase the likelihood that you will follow through by 80%, right? Pareto principle. So even if you don't do all of these things, do one of these things, do it messy, but start. So what I'm asking you to do right now is take a moment, Invite people from your cell phone contacts. DM people who follow you. Connect with new people. Email and call people on the phone even. As old school as that might sound, as analog as that might sound, right? Take $100 and run some ads and see what happens. Make a post letting people know how you can add value, or just DM an influencer, reach out, have a conversation, see what happens. But do something, because if you do nothing, nothing will change. And that is your cost of inaction.